Dawn breaks softly over the East African plains, and the first thing you notice is the sound. Dry grass whispering in the wind, a far-off call from somewhere unseen. Then, under that pale light, the earth itself seems to stir with hunger. Dust hangs in the air, heat is already building, and everywhere, from the tall grass to the open horizon, life is listening. Because here, nothing stays peaceful for long. As the dry season stretches on, rivers shrink and old trails lead more and more animals to the same few places where water still remains. That pull toward the same life-saving pools can turn a quiet morning into a sudden clash in an instant. In this land, every advantage can become a weapon, even if only for a short while. Stay with us as we follow the hunters, the hunted, and the hard choices they face. And if you love the savannah, say hello in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Dawn opens slowly here, and the first light seems to arrive with the dust. The heat rises off the mud in visible waves. Before the water itself comes into view, there is the smell. Wet earth, algae, dung, and the sharp, stale edge of a place that has been used hard by many feet. Then the sounds arrive. A low grunt from the reeds, a splash, a bird calling from a bare branch, and beneath it all, the steady hush of animals breathing in the same narrow place. This is the downstream water hole, where the dry season has pulled the whole savannah closer and closer together. Grass ends in dusty straw. Tracks overlap in the bank. Every path seems to lead here, and every arrival brings a little more tension with it. In this shrinking season, water is not just life. It is a meeting place for hunger, fear, and luck. Say hello in the comments if you're watching with me from home. The first thing you notice is the sound, not the animal itself. A soft burst of panting, a scrape of claws on dry earth, and then the quick crackle of grass as something lean and hungry slips through it. In the East African heat, even the shadows feel thin now, and the dry season has pulled the land inward, closer and closer to the same shrinking water. Out here, every track seems to lead toward that pull. Every throat is dry. Every ear is listening. Then a shape flashes between the yellow stems, low to the ground, ears up, moving like a thought before it becomes a decision. This is one of Africa's most social hunters, and it lives by speed, trust, and timing. Its life is a race against hunger, rivals, and the hard fact that in a season like this, the whole savannah is being drawn toward the same places. Meet the African wild dog, a hunter of open country from the grasslands and woodlands of eastern and southern Africa. The heat seems to gather here first, under the broad green arms of the acacia. Wind slips through the leaves in little dry whispers, and the light breaks apart into gold patches on the ground below. From up in the canopy, the savannah looks different. The grass is still yellow and brittle, but here there is shade and thorn and the faint rustle of life trying to keep out of sight. Birds stitch through the branches, insects hum in the warm air, and now and then a monkey calls from somewhere higher up, out of view. These trees are more than just points on the horizon. They are resting places, lookout posts, and hiding places all at once. And as the dry season goes on, more and more animals are drawn toward the same shrinking water, the same green cover, the same narrow chances, Even a tree can become part of the struggle. If you stand still near the water at noon, you can hear the whole shoreline breathing. Mud sucks at every step. Flies buzz in the heat. Somewhere out in the deep pool, a heavy body rolls just under the surface, sending up a slow shiver of ripples. Then a snort breaks the quiet, and the water seems to close again, as if nothing happened. This is where the dry season pulls everything together. The land around the river has baked hard and pale, and every path leads back to the same shrinking place. And in that crowded water, size can mean safety, but only if you know how to use it. Today, we're looking at a young bull hippo, still learning what it means to live beside the biggest bull in the pod. He is not yet the master of this water, but he is already built for a life of pressure, threat, and sudden force. Say hello in the comments if you'd like, and tell us where you're watching from. A young bull hippo may not look like the most graceful animal on the savannah, but in the dry season, grace has little to do with survival. He lives in the river and water holes of East Africa, where the land dries fast and tempers rise with it. Compared to the fully grown dominant bull, he is smaller, lighter, and far less settled in his place. But he still carries the same heavy body, the same broad head, the same deep-set eyes and ears that sit high above the waterline. Up close, his skin looks smooth and almost polished when wet, but it is thick enough to handle rough pushes and angry blows. The wide mouth is built for display as much as feeding. Those long lower tusks are not there for chewing grass. They are for warning, for fighting, for claiming space when the water gets crowded. And crowded is the word. In the dry season, hippos gather in the deepest pools they can find. There is less room than before, less fresh water, less peace. The young bull spends much of his day half submerged, with only his eyes and nostrils showing, holding still in the heat, while birds pick at flies and the sun burns down on his back. But stillness does not mean rest. He is always aware of who is nearby, who is drifting too close, and where the dominant bull is lying. Every movement in this place matters. A shift in the water can mean a warning. A lifted head can mean a challenge. And in the season of shrinking water, even the mud becomes part of the story, because the same banks that offer cool relief also force every hippo into tighter contact with the others. That is when the air changes. You can feel it in the tension before you see it. A grunt, a splash, a sudden charge through the shallows. The young bull's days are shaped by that pressure. He feeds at night when the grass is safer to reach, and he returns to the water before dawn. Day, he waits with the rest of the pod, conserving energy in the heat and reading the moods of older animals. Hippos may seem slow, but they are always ready to move. A young bull learns that lesson early. He drifts in the pod's edge more often than the center, because the center belongs to the strongest animals, especially in the deepest water where a dominant bull can hold his ground. The dry season makes every pool feel smaller than the last, and that shrinking water turns one river bend into a crowded city. There is no private space here. A mistake can bring a charge. A wrong turn can bring teeth. The young bull has to know when to challenge and when to yield. That is part of growing up in a place where strength is measured not just by muscle, but by judgment. At the same time, the river gives him what the grasslands cannot: cool skin, protection from the sun, and a place to stand with his own kind. He learns the rhythm of the group, learns that the water is both refuge and battleground. One day he may hold the deepest channel for himself. For now he stays alert, because in this season the whole savannah is pulled toward the same water, and every advantage is temporary. Family life in a hippopod is not soft. It is crowded, loud, and full of strict rules. The young bull lives among mothers, calves, and other bulls, but the dominant male keeps order in the deepest part of the pool. Younger males may linger at the edge or slip away to safer shallows, where they can avoid a fight they are not ready to win. They watch the big bull's body language closely. A tilt of the head, a lift of the snout, a sudden surge through the water. These are not small things. They are signals that the space is changing. The young bull's place in that world is still being decided. He is old enough to feel the pull of challenge, but not yet secure enough to ignore the risks. That is why he yields when he must. It is not weakness. How he stays alive long enough to grow. And growth is a slow thing for a hippo, measured in seasons and in the widening of shoulders, the thickening of the neck, the hardening of a young animal into a bull that can one day stand his ground. In the meantime, he learns by watching. He learns where the water runs deepest when the river drops. He learns how far he can push before another bull answers. He learns that the same bank where he cools himself by day becomes a crossing point for danger after dark, when crocodiles wait low in the water and lions sometimes come to the shore. The young bull is part of a larger life in the river, one that depends on those shrinking pools more than anyone would like to admit. Hippos help shape the water itself, stirring up mud and opening channels as they move. Their presence feeds scavengers and cleanup birds, and their nightly grazing spreads their impact far beyond the banks where they sleep. But they also remind us how quickly a safe place crowded, then contested when the dry season tightens its grip. In East Africa, water is not just a comfort. It is the center of the whole story. And when the land dries back, every animal has to come to terms with the same truth. There is only so much room at the river, and only so many chances to hold it. The young bull hippo shows us that survival is not always about winning the fight in front of you. Sometimes it is about knowing when to step back, when to wait, and when to come again later, bigger and stronger. That patience is part of the species' strength. It lets hippos live through heat, pressure, and conflict in a season when the land seems to be closing in from every side. And it is one more reminder that on this savannah, even the heaviest bodies are moved by the smallest changes in water. That is the quiet drama of the dry season. It turns a river bend into a battlefield and a young bull into a student of survival. The smell reaches them before the water does. Dry grass, sun-baked dust, old hoof prints, and that faint mineral tang that hangs in the air when the season has gone on too long. Then the buffalo come into view, dark shapes moving through a pale, wavering heat shimmer, shoulders low, heads swinging, tails flicking at flies. They do not hurry, they do not need to, but every step they take is part of the same slow pull toward the shrinking water that has been drawing every creature on this savannah closer together and closer to trouble. Meet the Cape buffalo, one of Africa's heaviest grazers and one of the toughest animals to share these dry plains. It lives in herds, and that is no accident. On a land where danger can rise from grass, trees, or even the edge of a water hole, numbers matter. The first thing you notice is the sound. A steady drum of hooves, soft grunts, the dry rasp of grass against hair, and somewhere beyond that, the thin whistle of wind over an open plain. Then the shapes come into view, moving in a tight, restless line through the heat. Black and white stripes catch the light, then vanish again as bodies turn. It is easy to think of these animals as a pattern in the grass. But out here, every stripe means something. Every step matters. Every small choice can mean the difference between reaching water and turning back. In a season when the land keeps shrinking around the same few pools and river edges, even a zebra has to live like a question waiting for an answer. If you've spent any time watching savannah life, say hello in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're listening from. They are one of the most familiar sights in East Africa, and yet they still hold a quiet mystery. A zebra can stand in the open and seem almost impossible to read. The river announces itself before you see it. First comes the smell of sun-baked mud, then the dusty sweetness of dry grass, and under that, the faint dampness of water hiding far off downstream. The wind moves through yellow stalks with a soft hiss, and every now and then it carries the sharp cry of a bird or the low grumble of something large moving in the heat. This is the dry season on the East African grasslands, when the land seems to narrow toward the last places that still hold water. What was once a broad green spread is now a patchwork of brittle stems, bare earth, and shallow channels. The pull is the same for everyone. Antelope, predators, elephants, and birds all drift toward the shrinking river, and with that crowding comes tension. Out here, even a drink can become a gamble. The first thing you notice is the heat. Not just the sun, but the heavy, still heat rising off the riverbank, mixing with the smell of mud, algae, and old fish. Then you catch the shape beneath the water, a ridge of armored back, a pair of eyes, and not much else. It barely seems to move, yet the whole shoreline feels like it is waiting on it. In these drying months, when water pulls back and the banks crack open, this animal becomes one of the most patient hunters in Africa. It waits where land meets water, where every thirsty creature must pass. A crocodile lives here in the rivers, pools, and water holes of East Africa, and its body is built for one job above all others, to hold still longer than almost anything else. What looks like calm is really control, and in a season when everyone is drawn to the same shrinking water, that matters. The crocodile's back is covered in tough, knobby scales called scooties, like built-in armor. The first thing you notice is the heat, not the kind that sits politely in the air, but the hard, pressing heat of a dry season that has gone on too long. Dust hangs above the grass, Every footstep seems louder than it should. Somewhere ahead, a low shape moves with such ease it looks almost unreal, a shadow sliding through yellow stems under a sky that keeps climbing brighter and harsher. Then the eyes catch you, amber, steady, unblinking. This is the moment the savannah holds its breath. A lioness is already close enough to matter, and the hunt is already in motion before most of the plain even knows it. In this land, where water keeps shrinking and everything is drawn toward the same places, one mistake can change everything. And for the pride's hunters, that pressure is a kind of power. She lives across the East African grasslands, an open woodland, where the dry season pulls animals together and turns distance into danger. What sets her apart is not just strength, but timing, patience, and the quiet work of a body made for sudden action. She is the one who carries the hunt, one careful step at a time, until the moment comes to burst forward. Up close, a lioness is built for that life. Her coat is the color of old grass and sun-bleached earth, so plain at first glance that she can melt into the landscape. There is no thick mane to slow her or advertise her from far away. Her head is broad, her shoulders strong, her chest deep. Those muscles hide under a coat that looks soft in the shade and gold in the sun. Her face is all-purpose. The jaw is built for gripping. The whiskers help her read the space around her, and those eyes, set forward, give her the focus she needs when every second counts. Even her paws feel made for silence. They spread her weight over the dry ground and let her move with very little sound, even when the grass is brittle and crackling under the heat. She is not flashy. She does not need to be. In a season when water holes are fewer and the same paths are used over and over again, blending in is an advantage. So is being able to wait. So is being able to read a shift in the wind, a flick of an ear, the tiny mistake that gives away a herd. When the hunt begins, she often does not charge straight in. She works with the others, spreading out, slipping into position, using the tall grass and the uneven light like cover. The day is long and the sun is unforgiving, but she can move through it in short, powerful bursts, saving energy for the instant that matters. And that instant comes fast. A herd of kudu antelope grazes ahead, heads down, calm for the moment, with no sign that danger is near. The lionesses have already spread into formation, each one taking a place that narrows the escape routes. Then the whole scene changes. She runs. Not for long, but with breathtaking speed. In just a few seconds, the dry earth blurs under her paws and the chase becomes a storm of dust and hooves. Lionesses can reach top speed near 50 miles per hour in those first few seconds, and that burst is often enough. The target is caught in the confusion, and the hunt ends with swift, exact force. It is over almost before it seems possible. But the savannah never lets a success stand alone. The sound has traveled. A hunt is never only about the animal taken. It is also about who heard it. In the distance, shapes begin to rise on the horizon. Hyenas, always listening. Always close enough to be a problem. This is the dry season's cruel trick. It brings predators, scavengers, grazers, and rivals to the same shrinking water and the same limited shade. A lioness may win the chase, but now she must guard the meal because time is already slipping away. Nothing in this country stays easy for long, and that is where her next skill comes in. She is not only a hunter, she is a manager of risk. She knows when to feed quickly. She knows when to lift her head and stare across the grass. She knows that a meal in the open is an invitation, so the pride becomes busy, efficient, alert. Flesh must be torn free. Cubs may need to be pushed back. A stronger body may claim the best part, but no one dawdles. The sun climbs higher. Heat shimmers over the plain. Blood darkens the dry grass. And still, even in that hard moment, there is order in the chaos. The lioness has done what she was built to do, and she keeps doing it because the season leaves her no other choice. The dry months force every animal toward the same narrow places, and that means every success sits beside danger. A lioness lives inside that tension. She is a mother, a sister, a daughter, and a hunter all at once. Most of the pride's food comes from the females, and that shapes everything about her life. She does not wander alone by accident. She moves with purpose, often alongside related females who have learned each other's habits over many seasons. In a pride, hunting is shared work, and the young grow up watching it happen again and again. Cubs stay close for safety, nursing and playing, while the adults move in and out of the grass. When the time comes, they learn by following, by watching, by stumbling through the same lessons that have kept lion prides alive through dry spells and lean years for generations. That family bond matters because the savannah is not generous. A lone hunter can survive for a while, but a pride has more eyes, more paws, more chances to bring down enough food when the land turns hard. The lioness is at the center of that system. Her body carries the heat of the day, the strain of the chase, and the quiet patience needed to wait out long hours before the next move. And because the dry season keeps squeezing life toward the same water, her role becomes even more important. She helps hold the pride together when the world around it narrows. That is why her story matters, not just because she is powerful, but because she shows how survival on the savannah is never a simple matter of teeth and speed. It is timing, it is cooperation, it is knowing when to move and when to vanish. It is understanding that a shrinking river changes everything, and that every animal from kudu to hyena to lioness is being pushed by the same hard season toward the same few lifelines. In that pressure, the lioness becomes a kind of answer. She turns the dry grass, the open light, and the risk of exposure into tools she can use for a little while, but only a little while. The season keeps tightening. The water keeps pulling every creature closer, and the pride's survival depends on how well she reads that changing world, one hunt at a time. She is the steady heart of the chase, and the savannah gives her no room to be anything less. The air changes first. Hot dust, dry grass, and the faint sour smell of old rain hang over the plain. And somewhere out there, a small body is already moving before the sun has fully climbed. You do not hear much at first, just the whisper of stems, the quick patter of feet, and then that sudden burst of motion that can turn a calm morning into a full sprint for life. In the East African dry season, every mouthful of water matters, and every open patch of ground can become a trap. This is the world of the cheetah, a cat built for one brief, shining moment of speed. It lives mostly on these broad savannas, where the grass has burned thin, and the same pull toward water brings hunters and hunted into the same narrow spaces. And if you'd like, say hello in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. The savanna may look wide open, but for a cheetah, it can feel very small. The cheetah is a study in lightness. Down here, the water comes with its own smell. Warm mud, green weed, a sharp animal tang that hangs in the air before dawn has fully burned away. Then the sounds begin. A soft grunt from the reeds, a snort, the heavy slap of water against a broad back, and somewhere farther off, the low murmur of birds gathering at the bank. This is the place every dry day road seems to lead. When the river and grasslands begin to shrink, when the fields turn brittle, and the sun keeps pressing harder each week, the same pull brings everyone to the same water. And in that crowd of need, there is one giant body that seems made for this season. Say hello in the comments if you're watching from a place where the summer heat has started to wear everything down. The hippo may look calm, but this is a life built around pressure, noise, and the crowded edge between water and land. Hippos live in rivers, pools, and lakes across East Africa, and one thing stands out right away. They spend most of the day half hidden, with only their eyes, ears, and nostrils showing. Up close, the body is a barrel of muscle and weight, with a huge mouth, short legs, and skin that looks smooth at a distance but is thick and tough. An adult bull can weigh over 3,300 pounds, and when one lifts that great head from the water, you understand at once why smaller animals give him room. But the body is only the beginning. What makes the hippo so fitted to this hard country is the way every part of it serves the dry season's demands. Its wide jaws are built for show and for battle, while its mostly aquatic life gives it relief from the heat that bakes the savanna all around. By midday, when the land turns bright and punishing, the hippo sinks deeper into the shallows, where the water cools its skin and the mud settles around its sides like a second hide. It is not a fish, and it is not a land animal in the usual sense. It lives in the seam between the two, where survival is measured by how well you can hold your ground when the water starts to disappear. The day of a hippo begins long before most people would think to look. While the river still holds the nights cool, a pod lies packed together in the shallows, bodies touching, heads angled just so, as if each one has found the exact place where the current is gentlest. The dominant bull claims the deepest water, and the others know it. There is order here, even in stillness. Then the light grows stronger, and the pod begins to shift. Some hippos rise with slow, rolling effort and wade toward feeding grounds. They do most of their grazing on land after dark, moving out across the river banks and grass edges when the heat eases and the shadows lengthen. All day, though, they stay close to the water. That is the pattern. That is the anchor. Need the river not only for comfort, but for safety, because their bodies are heavy, their skins are exposed, and the dry season makes every movement a risk. A hippo on open ground is a strange sight. a giant built for the water, yet capable of covering a surprising stretch of land when it chooses to walk. It leaves behind worn paths between pool and pasture, and those paths become part of the whole season's story. As the months dry on, more animals use the same routes, the same banks, the same shrinking openings in the earth. The hippo does not have to hunt, but it still shapes the world around it just by being there. In the water, a hippo's days are not lazy, even when they seem so from far off. It shifts position, it watches, it listens. The ears twitch, the nostrils open and close, and a little fountain of breath marks where the head rests above the surface. A body that large has to manage heat, but it also has to manage space. Crowded pool, a small turn of the head can send a warning through the whole group. A sudden movement from a young male can stir the older bull, and if a challenge comes, the response can be immediate. Hippos may seem peaceful when they are lying in rows with only their faces above water, but they are anything but indifferent to one another. They keep a close order, especially when the dry season tightens the world and there is less room for everyone. The strongest bull holds the best place in the water, and he guards it with force. That is part of why this animal has such a fearsome reputation. It does not need to chase across the plains to be dangerous. It has only to defend the little kingdom of water it already owns. At night, when the heat breaks and the stars come out over the grasslands, the hippo leaves the pool to feed. Then the riverbank comes alive with heavy steps and muffled snorts. Grazing happens in the dark, away from the eyes of lions and hyenas, and the hippo moves with purpose, not hurry. It strips short grass close to the ground, then returns before morning, following the same routes it has used for years. These are old habits, and they matter more every day as the dry season keeps drawing the life of the land back toward the same shrinking water. Family life in hippos begins inside this crowded, watery world. A pod is not just a random gathering. Females stay together with their young, and calves learn the shape of survival by staying close to their mothers and the safety of the group. A calf can ride high beside its mother in the shallows, using her body as shelter from the current and from danger. Small mouths must surface often, and the adults make room. The young spend their days learning where to rest, where to feed, when to move, and how to read the moods of a pool that can turn tense in a moment. The dominant bull holds his place, and younger males wait for their chance, always testing the edges without stepping too far. When a challenge comes, the lesson is brutal and quick: yield or leave. That harsh order is part of hippo life, and it is tied to the season itself. As water shrinks, there is less margin for mistake. The same pools that protect calves and mothers can become crowded battlefields for males. A family group survives by staying together and by knowing the rules of the water. The calf learns that before it ever knows the open plain, and the mother, calm on the surface, carries the next generation through a season that asks every animal to do more with less. Hippos matter because they sit right in the middle of the East African water world. They trim grass at night, move nutrients between land and river, and create paths that other animals follow. These also shape the banks and shallows they live in, changing the flow around them in ways that ripple outward through the whole pool. But they live under pressure. Dry seasons grow harder when water sources shrink and people, livestock, and wildlife all crowd toward the same places. That is when conflict rises. Hippos can be dangerous to people, and they are one more reminder that in this country, space itself can become a weapon when the rains fail and the same water must serve too many lives. Still, there is something steady in the hippo's way of enduring. It does not pretend the season is kind. It simply returns to the water, again and again, and waits out what it cannot change. And maybe that is the lesson hidden in this broad, heavy body. In a land where the dry season keeps tightening its grip, survival can mean knowing exactly where to stand. Dawn on the East African savannah comes softly at first, then all at once. The grass is still gray with night, the air holds a cool edge, and somewhere in the distance a bird calls over the low hum of waking insects. Then the day begins to stir for real. A shape moves through the tall yellow grass. Another follows. Soon there are many. Heads low, shoulders rolling, tails twitching through the stems. This is a lion pride, moving like one body through a land that is always drawing everything toward the same water, especially now in the dry season when the rivers shrink and the pressure builds. If you're watching from a safe place this morning, say hello in the comments. From a distance, these cats can seem calm, almost lazy, but that calm hides a life built on timing, teamwork, and a great deal of patience. Meet the pride. On the savannah, lions live in family groups centered on related females, their cubs, and a few adult males that may come and go. The heat hangs still beneath the acacia leaves. Dust rises in little ghosts from the footpath below, and every sound seems to travel farther than it should. A bird gives a sharp call. Somewhere, a hoof shifts on hard ground. Then there is only that quiet, watchful pause that belongs to the dry season, when every animal is drawn toward the same shrinking water and every shadow can mean something else entirely. High in the branches, almost part of the tree itself, a spotted shape rests without a sound. For a long moment, there is no movement at all, just the light, the leaves, and the feeling that the bush is holding its breath. This is the kind of place where life survives by staying hidden. And for one of Africa's most secret hunters, that is the whole trick. It is a leopard, and its life is built around questions. How does such a powerful cat stay unseen? How does it hunt in broad daylight? And how does it keep its food from the lions and hyenas that share this same hard country? The heat sits over the grass like a held breath. Tall stems whisper against each other, dry and brittle, and every gust sends a pale wave running across the plain. Somewhere out there, an antelope steps carefully. Somewhere else, a bird gives one sharp call and falls silent. This is the kind of country where distance matters less than patience, and where the same ribbon of shrinking water keeps drawing life toward the same place. The grass grows tall here, but it is not endless cover. It bends, it parts, it hides and reveals in the same moment. And in that shifting gold, the savannah keeps its secrets for just a little while longer. We will come back to these plains again and again, because this is where the dry season tightens its grip and every path begins to point toward water. If you are enjoying this journey, say hello in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. Heat rises in wavering sheets above the grass, and the whole plain seems to hold its breath. A rustle comes first, then a quick flash of movement under the tawny stems, then silence again. Out here, where the dry season keeps pulling water farther and farther away, even the smallest path can lead straight to danger. And that is where this little survivor comes in, all muscle, nerve, and stubborn courage. Meet the honey badger, a creature that lives across much of East Africa and is famous for taking on trouble far larger than itself. It is not the biggest hunter on the savannah, not by a long shot, but it has earned a hard name in a hard land. And when the same shrinking water draws everyone together, there is room for only so much patience. The honey badger is built to push through conflict, not avoid it. Compared with the lean speed of the cheetah or the heavy power of the lion, it survives by grit, thick skin, and a temper that says, "Stand back." Its body is low and compact, with short legs that keep it close to the ground. The fur is long and rough, pale on the back and darker below, like a rough little blanket thrown over a stocky frame. That pale stripe across its body makes it easy to spot when it trots through the grass, but in the crush of the dry season, it is the attitude more than the markings that matters. This animal is a bit like a battered toolbox on legs. It is packed with the right tools for a place where every meal, every drink, and every safe step has to be earned. The honey badger's loose skin helps protect it in a fight, because if a larger animal grabs hold, there is still some room to twist and turn inside that grip. Its claws are strong enough for digging, and its jaws can crack into food that would send others looking elsewhere. It does not waste energy trying to look harmless. It simply keeps moving, nose to the ground, always listening for the next chance. In a season when the savannah is drying out and everyone is drawn toward the same last water, that kind of toughness matters. The badger's day is a study in timing. It will wander through grass, scrub, and rocky edges, searching for eggs, insects, small animals, roots, and fallen scraps when they are there. It is an opportunist, which means it takes what the land offers and keeps going. If a burrow opens near the path, it may dig. If a nest is tucked into the earth, it may raid it. If a carcass is left behind by a larger hunter, it may claim a share, even when that share is fiercely defended. And that is where its life becomes a lesson in nerves. The honey badger does not move like a creature asking permission from the land. It moves like one that knows the land will not give anything freely. In the heat of the day, when many animals are resting and the earth feels baked through, it can tuck itself into shade or a den and wait. Then, when the light softens, it goes back out again. Steady rhythm helps it live through a country where the dry season keeps tightening the same old questions. Where is the water? Who gets there first? And who can hold on when others back away? In the dry months, even the sounds of the savannah change. There is less splash from pools, less rustling in lush grass, more scraping feet and nervous calls around whatever water remains. The honey badger slips through all of that with a kind of blunt confidence. It is not fast in the way a cheetah is fast. It is not built for long, open chases, but it can keep working a problem long after a weaker animal would have quit. That persistence is one of its great advantages. If a path is blocked, it digs around it. If a meal is hidden, it works at it. If something larger threatens it, it may flatten its body, bare its teeth, and fight with a ferocity that surprises almost everyone who sees it. This is not an animal that lives by peace. It lives by persistence. Daily life for honey badgers is quieter, but no less important. They are usually solitary, each animal moving through its own range, though mothers raise young with patient care in a den. A mother will keep her cub hidden and safe while the world outside grows drier and meaner. For a while, the den becomes the center of everything. There in the cool dark, a small badger learns the shape of its future by staying close, nursing, resting, and watching. When the time comes, the young animal follows the mother out into the light and begins to learn what this life demands. There is no easy lesson for a young honey badger, only the slow instruction of watching how an adult faces the world, how it digs, how it feeds, how it holds its ground, and how it survives when the whole savannah seems to be squeezing tighter around the same precious water. That is what makes the honey badger such a fitting part of this dry season world. It is not just a tough animal. A reminder that survival here is not always about being the largest or the fastest. Sometimes it belongs to the one that can keep going when the ground is hot, the grass is thin, and every advantage has to be used before it disappears. In that way, the honey badger belongs to the same story as the lioness, the hyena, and the cheetah. Each one is shaped by the pull toward water and by the tension that comes with it. Each one is forced to make the most of a shrinking season. And each one, in its own way, shows how life in East Africa is built on movement, pressure, and the constant search for a little more time. The honey badger matters because it keeps the small and overlooked parts of the savannah in motion. It hunts insects and small animals. It digs through earth. It opens up spaces other creatures may later use. It also reminds us that the savannah is not ruled only by the obvious giants. There is strength in stubbornness. There is survival in refusing to give up. Season when water pulls everyone toward the same narrow places, that kind of courage can be the difference between fading out and carrying on. So when you picture this land, do not only think of the lions and the herds. Think too of the low, determined shape working through the grass, still at it when the day grows harsh. Even the smallest fighter can leave a mark on a season. The smell comes before the shape. Dry grass crushed under heavy feet, a trace of old meat, dust lifted by a hot wind, and somewhere beyond the reeds, the sharp, nervous scent of water drawing a crowd. Then a sound rises out of the heat, not a roar, not a cry, but a chorus of whoops and laughter that rolls across the plain and makes the birds jump. In the East African dry season, nothing stays quiet for long, and nothing stays alone for very long either. This is the hyena, a creature built for a season when the land keeps pulling every living thing toward the same shrinking water and the same hard choices. Meet the spotted hyena, found across these grasslands, where it lives in large social groups and survives by brains, speed, and nerve. It may look plain at first glance, but almost every part of it is made for conflict, for distance, and for making the most of what others leave behind. A hyena's shoulders sit high and powerful, its front half built stronger than its back, giving it that sloping shape as it moves through the grass. The head is broad, with a heavy jaw that can crack through bones and tough hides after a chase has ended. The coat is short and coarse, marked with dark spots that break up its outline in shadow and sunlight. The ears stand tall and rounded, always listening, and those eyes, pale, watchful, and steady, seem to take in everything at once. In a place where the dry season keeps tightening its grip, the hyena's body is only part of the story. Its real strength begins with other animals. It is a hunter, yes, but it is also a thief when the chance appears, and a patient cleaner when it does not. Either way, it never wastes an opening. And on these plains, openings are rare. At dawn, after the lionesses have rushed down a kudu and the dust still hangs in the air, the hyenas are already on the move. They do not charge in blindly. They circle first, testing the air, reading the ground, watching the faces of the hunters who got there before them. If the meal is weakly guarded, they press closer. If not, they wait, because waiting can be just as useful as biting. A hyena clan can travel many miles in a night or day, and in this heat they keep going with an easy, loping gait that looks loose, but covers ground fast. They can hunt for themselves, especially when the season is lean and the carcasses are few. They also clean up what the land cannot afford to leave lying around. Bones, skin, scraps, even the rough parts that other animals pass over. A hyena can use what is left. That makes it a vital recycler on a savanna where nothing sits unused for long. But the same skill that keeps a hyena alive can also put it in danger. A lion's kill, after all, is not only food, it is a prize worth fighting over. So the hyena listens, noses the wind, and moves with the confidence of a creature that knows the plain is never empty for long, only temporarily quiet. As the sun climbs, the pressure builds near the water. The dry season has pulled herds, predators, and scavengers toward the same shrinking places, and every path seems to cross another path. A hyena clan may number a few dozen or far more, and that social life matters because the work of survival is shared. One animal notices the movement, another gives the call, then more come, one after another, until a small band becomes a force. That is how they challenge bigger animals, and how they defend food that took effort to find. They do not have the lion's famous mane or the leopard's silent grace, but they do have endurance, teamwork, and a willingness to keep pushing after others would give up. Hyenas are also famous for their voices, and those sounds matter here. A whoop can carry far across open ground, bringing clanmates in from a distance. In a season when water shrinks and the land funnels everyone into the same narrow lanes, sound becomes as important as smell. A call can mean danger, a meal, a rival, or a chance to join in before it is too late. And when night falls, those calls can seem to float over the grass like smoke. The hyena's place in this world is not easy to admire at first, because it lives so close to loss. But the more you watch, the more you see how much judgment is packed into every move. It is always balancing risk and reward. It may steal from a lion if the odds look good, or back off if they do not. It may follow vultures, watch the sky, or check the edges of a herd for weakness. It may feed alone, but more often it feeds in company, with the clan keeping watch for trouble. That makes the hyena one of the savannah's great survivors, shaped by a land that never hands out comfort for free. And here is why it matters. In a dry landscape, no animal exists by itself. The hyena helps keep the grassland clean by eating what others leave behind, and that matters more than it sounds. Leftovers can spread sickness if they pile up, but hyenas help clear them away quickly. They also take pressure off other hunters by making sure no kill goes completely to waste. In that way, they are part of the same hard-working circle that keeps the dry season from becoming a dead season. They are not the gentle face of the plains, but they are one of its most necessary ones. And when water runs low and the same narrow paths draw everyone together, the hyena shows how a sharp mind, a strong jaw, and a clan around you can turn scarcity into survival. On this shrinking savannah, that is no small thing. It is the difference between fading back into the grass and being there when the next chance comes. The first thing you notice is the sound. A slow rustle through dry grass, a low rumble under the feet, and then that deep, steady breath that seems to come from the earth itself. Dust hangs in the light. The air smells of hot soil, crushed stems, and a faint mineral note from water far off. Then the shape appears, huge and calm, moving with a kind of patience that makes everything else around it seem hurried. In this season, when the land is drying and every living thing is drawn toward the same shrinking water, even a giant has to keep moving. This is one of Africa's oldest survivors, and it carries the memory of wet months in its stride. If you're watching from the shade, go ahead and say hello in the comments. Today we're spending time with a creature that helps shape the savannah simply by walking across it. The African elephant is not just built for life here. It helps define life here. The smell changes first. Hot dust, dry grass, a faint sour trace of old water, and somewhere in it all, the sharp, clean scent of antelope. Then the movement begins. A pale line of acacia shade lies across the ground, and under it a small herd drifts forward, careful and quick, like a thought that might vanish if you look too hard. One animal lifts its head, another flicks an ear. The whole group seems to listen to the land itself. These are impalas, and in the long, dry season, when water keeps shrinking and every herd is pulled toward the same places, they live with one ear on the grass and one eye on the horizon. They are common across East and Southern Africa, but common does not mean easy. In a place where lions, leopards, hyenas, and even crocodiles are always waiting for a mistake, the impala survives by being fast, alert, and ready to turn in an instant. If you've been following along, say hello in the comments.
The air changes first. It dries the throat. It carries dust, old grass, and the warm animal smell of a day spent under hard sun. Then comes the sound, a rush of hooves, a sharp grunt, the crackle of yellow stems folding under a charge. Out on the plain, where the dry season has drawn everything toward the same shrinking water, a herd of buffalo turns like a dark wall in the grass. And from the edge of that wall, 4 lionesses move, not one at a time, not carelessly. They spread, low and silent, each one reading the others by a flick of tail or the angle of a shoulder. For a moment, the whole savannah holds its breath. Then they break. The grass bursts open. Dust jumps into the light. A buffalo calf veers hard, then slips, and the lions are on it before the herd can swing back. But this is not the end of the story. It never is here. The buffalo are many, strong, and angry, and they do not scatter far from the water that is keeping them alive. Meet the lion pride's final buffalo ambush, a hunt shaped by hunger, heat, and the fact that every creature in this season is being pulled to the same place. The attack begins with patience, but it may end in chaos. First, the lionesses use the cover they have. The grass is low now, burned down by weeks without real rain, but even that thin cover is enough when you are close to the ground and built for silence. Their coats melt into the dry yellow land. Their bellies skim the dirt. Their ears stay forward, fixed on the buffalo's movement ahead. Buffalo are no easy prey. They are heavy, stubborn, and quick to defend one another. That is why the lions have chosen the weakest edge of the herd. A calf trying to keep up, a split in the moving line. One instant where the adults cannot turn fast enough. The pride has done this before, but each time the same rule applies. Success comes in a burst. Lionesses can reach nearly 50 miles an hour in the first few seconds, and in those few seconds, speed matters more than anything else. The lead lioness lunges. Another cuts from the side. A third appears, where the buffalo thought the grass was empty. The calf goes down in a cloud of dust and kicking legs. The herd surges, horns swinging, hooves striking the ground so hard the earth seems to flinch. A buffalo cow crashes in to protect the fallen young one, and for an instant, the lions are forced back. This is the dangerous part. This is where a hunt can flip in a heartbeat. One wrong step, and a lioness can be tossed, trampled, or left bleeding in the dust. Around them, the whole season presses in. The water is farther away than it was last month. The grass is thinner. The same river bend that drew kudu, hippos, elephants, and zebra now draws danger too, and the buffalo know it. They crowd toward the water, using numbers, using fear, using the simple power of bodies packed tight. But the lions have one advantage left: teamwork. They do not waste motion. They do not chase forever. They keep the calf separated just long enough. One lioness grips. Another blocks the nearest adult with a sudden burst and a snarl. The herd wheels, then surges again, and the dust rises so high it turns the light the color of old brass. For a second, the hunt seems lost in that dust. Then the ground goes still in one small place. The calf no longer moves. The lions hold for a breath, then begin to feed quickly, heads low, shoulders tense, always listening for the sound that means the herd has decided to come back, because buffalo often do. They are among the few animals strong enough to challenge a pride at a kill, and no lion here can afford to feed in peace for long. That is why the meal must be fast. That is why the dry season changes everything. It does not simply starve animals. It concentrates them. It pushes them together. It makes every river crossing, every muddy edge, every shrinking pool a place where lives collide. And here, that collision has a shape. The lions turn a patch of grass into a trap for just a few seconds. The buffalo turn fear into a shield. The land itself keeps narrowing the options for both. Even the air seems to know what happened, carrying the smell of dust, sweat, and the sharp, hot scent of a hunt finished too close to danger. This one ambush tells us a lot about the lions of the grasslands. Their bodies are built for short, powerful work, not long chases. They need cover, timing, and the help of one another. It also tells us how hard life has become when the dry season stretches on. As water shrinks, animals gather in the same places, and those places become battlegrounds. A hunt is never just a hunt here. It is part of a larger pressure on the whole plain, where food, water, and safety all begin to run together. And it shows why pride life matters so much. A lone lion would struggle to take prey like this. A group can do what one animal cannot. That teamwork has always been their strength, but it also depends on a healthy land. Enough prey, enough cover, enough room to move. When people fence off routes or take too much water, the pressure rises again, and the margin for survival gets thinner still. Protecting these open places and the animals that move through them means protecting the old rhythm of the savannah itself. It means giving this hard, beautiful country a chance to keep teaching its lessons of patience, timing, and shared strength. In the end, the hunt fades back into the grass, and the plain settles under the weight of the afternoon heat. But the memory of it stays with the wind. And now, as the sun slips low and the red light fades from the acacia trees, the savannah settles into that uneasy quiet that always comes before night. The grass still holds the heat of the day. The air still carries dust, old blood, and the sharp smell of dry earth. Out here, every path seems to lead toward the same thinning water, and every creature has had to learn the same hard lesson. Use what you have while you have it. Strong jaws, quick feet. Sharp eyes, a patient wait, a sudden rush. For a season, those things can be a weapon. Then the season changes, and they are only tools again. That is the strange truth of this land. It turns advantage into survival, and survival into another day. We have watched lions, leopards, hippos, elephants, cheetahs, buffalo, and so many others share the same shrinking world, each one pressed by hunger, heat, and risk. Some will make it, some will not. But all of them belong to the same hard, beautiful story. If you've enjoyed this journey across the East African grasslands, please like, subscribe, share it with someone who loves the outdoors, and tell us in the comments which animal stayed with you the most. From one pair of watchful eyes to another, thank you for being here.